Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership at TEPSA. And each episode, I look to bring you a different guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another and bring them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to tell some of yours. I'm thrilled this week to have my friend Melinda Miller on. Melinda, tell everybody who you are.
Hey, I am an elementary principal in Willard, Missouri. It's right outside of Springfield, Missouri. I have been in education for 26 years. I've been a principal for 16 of those. I've been in the same district. I always have to give that disclaimer because the way I can do things, having been in the same district, is different than people who are new. My people know me, I know them. So I have two beautiful daughters. One's going into 7th grade and one is going into 9th grade. And those are transition years. So
Yeah.
they didn't get to end their year at the building that they were in. So we're kind of going through that transition of new buildings being not in school. So it's exciting. They're girls, so it's going to be interesting there too. So
Oh man, I've got so many things I want to talk about this morning. And so I guess the first I'll just start with is, whenever I interview an educator, I love to know, like, were you one of those people who grew up knowing education was in your bones, that you were always going to do it? Or was it something you kind of fell into and then fell in love with?
Well, that's such an interesting question because it's so hard for me to answer that. I worked with kids my whole life until college. I taught swimming lessons, I did Bible school, I helped with Bible school, I babysat, I was a nanny, all those things. And then I really thought I wanted to be a banquet planner, like banquets and weddings at hotels and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So when I went to school, that was what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to do banquets and hotel planning, conference planning. And then I worked at a hotel on bowling weekend and decided that working in a hotel probably wasn't something that I wanted to do. And so, I mean, I think it was always in me. My aunt and uncle are teachers. My mom was a teacher. My granny was a teacher. So I think it's just kind of in the family. But yeah, so I don't know that. I think I tried to detour away from it, and then the bowling weekend brought me right back.
Uh-huh. I could totally understand. It's like one of those things of, I think this is going to be a great job. And then you get a taste of it and you're like, I do not like this at all. It's not quite what I thought I was getting into.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you are an elementary principal now, but when you were teaching, were you more naturally drawn towards the elementary kids, or was it kind of like that's just where you ended up and you loved it?
Oh, that's such a good question. Elementary, I was actually early childhood. I had my degree in birth through 3rd grade first, and really thought that I was going to be a preschool teacher or, something kindergarten and lower. So my first half of my student teaching I did in 1st grade. And, I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
And so then my second session, I did 5th grade, and oh my gosh, I loved them. Like, you could tell them to read and they could. You could tell them to do something and they could do it. 1st graders, they can't do what you're saying.
Right.
But the 5th graders could do what I was saying, and then they started to have that sense of humor, and they still liked their teacher, but then they were becoming their own person. So I loved 5th grade. They were the best.
Yeah. It's funny you share that because a lot of my work in student teaching when I was an instructional aide was in kindergarten and 1st grade too. And I loved those grades. And I was like, I'm going to be a kindergarten teacher. But then when I got my job offer, it was for 4th grade. And then 2 years later, I moved to 5th grade. And I was like, no, I love these kids too. And it's so weird because I still love kinder. But those 4th and 5th graders, oh, that was where my heart was. And so when did you realize that administration was going to be in your path?
Well, for me, that's kind of a God thing. And I know other people have different beliefs or whatever. But when I got married, we really struggled to have children. We tried and tried and tried and tried. So we tried for about we tried for 5 years, but after trying, one or two or whatever, I just kind of decided, okay, if I can't have kids of my own, then I want more kids than just the kids in my class. So I want to be in charge of all of them. So I got my degree. I got my master's in administration, and I lived a really charmed life the beginning of my life. Like, I got every job that I applied for initially. So when I wanted to transition into administration, a position came open mid-year. It just worked out, and so I became an assistant principal. Like in the middle of the year, I was allowed to leave my classroom and be an assistant. Wow. And I was an assistant between two buildings. So whenever the head building principal was at one, then I was at the other, and had no idea what I was doing, but I would just call her all the time and just be like, okay, so this happened, and this happened. And this was all before social media, when you had to call on the phone. So that's kind of my story. And then my first year as a principal, I kid you not, they say don't make like more than one life change in a year. So my first year as a principal, I had to move to the district because it was a requirement to live within your district. So I had to move to the district. I became a principal, and I got pregnant with my first daughter. So that's why I think it was like a God thing, because I think he was saying, you still have more to accomplish before you become a mom. And then that year I became a mom. So that was a lot for your
That's
first
a lot in 1 year.
Yeah.
Moving and a new job alone are stressful enough, but adding in the other element too, goodness.
I know.
And so, you've been a principal for a few years now. And so what do you feel like you've really learned about yourself since stepping into a leadership role like that?
Oh my gosh, so many things, because your life changes over the course of that time. First of all, I was type A, and I had a schedule, and I had a calendar, and I had timeline, and I planned my day. I knew how my day was going to go. And as a principal, you sometimes don't even get to walk into your office before something has happened. There's a bus issue, a parent waiting for you, something like that. So I would sometimes not even look at my calendar until after lunch, if even that day at all. And then you would sit down and you would just be like, okay, well, I got nothing done today. So being able to let that stuff go took me a long time. Being able to realize, I don't even know what today's going to bring. So that I learned that about myself. And now, just after life experiences that I've been through, I feel like you just do what you can, and you just have empathy for people and a big heart. And if it works out, it works out. But if you're doing it and coming from the right place, it's going to work out in the end. So.
Now, I think hearing at the beginning of our conversation about you wanting to go into the planning business, wedding and event planning, I could see that really benefiting you as a leader too, like some of those natural things that you loved about that idea when you were thinking about it, playing into how you lead a campus and planning events and staff appreciation and things like that. And so do you see some of those elements that you loved about that idea playing into what you get to do now?
In the beginning, I think those two things really tied together in the beginning. And then I think now, after I've been in this a while, it's more about the people and the relationships. And teachers are, they're amazing. The work that they do and how hard they work, I want to support them. I want to clear the path for them so that they can be teachers and do the hard work with the kids. And that's my office and my secretary. I have the best secretaries on the planet. But I always say, we're here to serve the teachers and the parents. No matter what they ask for, no matter what they need, even if they've asked 5 times, even if they need copies every 2 seconds, we're going to do that for them, because they are doing the hard work that we've been put here to do. So I think in the beginning, the planning and the organizing, and that really helped me. And now it's just navigating relationships and personality styles and things like that. And I enjoy that. I don't know if I'm very good at it, but I like it.
Well, something else you said too is, starting a new position, and moving, and also being pregnant with your first child. And so how did you balance that where that year didn't break you?
I didn't really, probably. What's so funny, that year after I had my daughter, I think you just don't even realize it. I think you just kind of live and just exist and just make the most of it. But the first year that I had my daughter, so I was a principal for a year, and then I had my oldest daughter. We were at like whatever that first checkup is for your for your daughter. So the first thing that happened that day was we got pulled over because our license were expired. So that was on the way back home from the doctor's office, and I was going to go to work anyway. So then I get a call that a student has brought a hand grenade in their backpack. Now, keep in mind, this is not a live grenade, but something about it made someone think that it was a live grenade.
Right.
So I am on my way back from the doctor's office with my first child, and we're getting pulled over by the police, which I wanted to say, hey, there's a hand grenade at my school. I need to go.
Right. I totally would have used that.
And so I get to, and then of course it makes national news that year. And it's just this whole big, ordeal. And you look back and you think, how did I handle that? Or how did I do that? And I just think that we just do. It's just principles, you just do it. There's no, you have to. You can't stop and, process some things for a long time. You learn that you just have to exist, but then you have to count on your people, because I had some good people. I had really good people with me. So I think surrounding yourself with those people is also key.
And I think that's huge and important. And, we hear that so often, but it's so important to be reminded of how that plays a role. And so, you're quite active on social media now. When was that point for you that you were like, I think I want to try this social media thing out?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was actually when I had my first child, because my family doesn't live close by. And so I think we were doing Skype and AOL Instant Messenger and all that kind of stuff.
You're aging yourself.
I know, I'm sorry. And I wanted my family to have a relationship with my kids.
Right.
And then I think I discovered, I think Tim Lauer was one of my first contacts on Twitter, and Dean Sharesky and Alec Caros. I know a lot of people know George, but I knew Alec. And then Glenn Malone. And I don't even know if he's, on anymore or in schools or whatever, but man, that was the most powerful thing, because like I said, as a principal, at first, all I could do was call people on the phone and get help that way. Right. Man, once I got on social media, so it was probably between 2005 and 2008. And man, when we got on there and we could all connect like this and talk to each other and give each other support and ideas, it was amazing. And then I just saw the power in it. So I just share, because I knew what it was like. I needed stuff. And when people would put that out there, I would be so thankful. So now just about everything I do, I will share it. Like I will put it out there. I'll blog about it, take a picture, do a Facebook Live, whatever. But if it helps another principal, I'll totally do it.
Well, one thing I've always loved about you, Melinda, is you are so funny when people spend time with you. Like, and it's very much like a unexpected. Like, you have to be listening when Melinda's talking, because she's throwing all these nuggets in there when you hang out with her, that if you're not listening, it's like, why is everybody laughing? And then but when because I remember that so much. Every time we spent time there, I just laughing constantly. But one of your big strengths that I admire you for is your ability to just understand the importance of relationships, but more than just understand it, like constantly act on it. And you're always trying to figure out ways to pour into others, to build others up. So much so that you, along with Amber Tiemann, have a Facebook group that y'all do. Y'all wrote a book called Lead with Appreciation. And so I'd love to know, like, When did that become such a passion of yours? Because it clearly is something you're passionate about. I mean, you've written a book, you invest in it, you pour into your own people all the time. When did you realize like that's going to be a huge factor for me?
It was probably 8 years ago or something like that. I love creating. Like I love cute fonts and clip art and all that stuff. And I also love gifts. I love to get gifts and I love to give gifts. And so my language of appreciation is gift giving. And so I just think that I just love doing that.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be a surprise. And when I started getting help from my secretary and from other people, and I felt like it wasn't a surprise anymore, we started that group so that only principals and central office members can be in there, because my teachers follow me everywhere. So my teachers follow me on Instagram, Facebook, everything. So I wasn't able to share that stuff until after the fact. Well, that doesn't help a principal if I share it after the fact. So we started that Facebook group, and that's just my language, is just gift giving and the little treats and the little prizes and the little things like that. So I think that's where that comes from. And then I want people to like me. So if you give them gifts, then they'll like you most of the time. But when they get to know you, like I've been with the same teachers for like 16 years. So they know me and they know that about me. So they like to give me just little gifts or little things, just because it doesn't take much. I'm not kidding. It doesn't take much. It's like one of those little lifesaver gummies at Halloween that's individually wrapped. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the greatest thing ever.
I love that. Well, you are such a relational person that, now that we're in this social distancing and this not being able to see people face to face every day, how are you like holding it all together and still feeling like you're making a difference?
I think that people that around here that are close to me physically, I think would laugh when you say I'm relational, because I'm so sarcastic and I know a lot of times I say things just to put up a front for people to not think I'm sort of sensitive at times. But the online connections, when this first started, I had pneumonia and I really needed a break. And so the first probably 3 weeks, I think I was just in a fog of, I needed a break. So I'm going to use this as a break and just to get healthy again. And then it took me a while to get back up to starting to be productive again. Because the worry is just unbelievable. And I don't know. I mean, I'm like, okay, what if one of my kids gets this? What if my mom gets this? What if a teacher gets this? What if a kid gets this at school? What am I going to do when somebody, because to me, I just felt like as soon as they get it, they're dead. Like that's what was portrayed, is anybody who gets this virus is just going to be dead in 48 hours, which I know isn't true now for most. But at the time I was like, my mom's going to get this and it's going to be over. I know my older brother would call my mom and just say, are you dead? And that's just us and our humor. So, but yeah, connecting online, we've done tons of Facebook Lives. I've put stuff online for teachers. I've tried to share what I'm learning as I go with everybody else. So I did a video on the productivity Facebook page about how we're preparing for students to pick up their belongings and teachers packing up. Because everybody just walked out of their building and then they shut them all down. So I shared that. I've got some pictures and some stuff to share still, just when I find the time to do that. But just blogging and on our Facebook group. And if it's helpful, I will keep doing it. And the feedback that I get so far is that it's helpful. So I try to keep up and share other people's stuff. So
I love that. Well, Melinda, when you think about the people that have played a role in your life into creating the woman we see today, who is somebody that really stands out, that was really instrumental in your own growth as a person?
Wow, that's such a hard question because there's so many.
I was gonna say there's so many, so this is not one of those you can get nobody get offended if Melinda doesn't say your name. So
yeah, I feel like the strong women in my life and my teachers and my coaches and, my mom, just people who've poured into me. And I don't know that there's just one person. The lady that hired me when I first started, I still consider her a mentor. Her name's Julie Gurman. She was a principal with me, and then she became a superintendent, and then she works for the university now in the professional development department. Principals, like, I watch other principals and some of the stuff that they do. Now, some of the stuff they do, I'm like, yeah, you go right ahead. But my grandmother was on my dad's side. She was an amazing woman. She owned a women's clothing store. She was smart and funny and prude. She was just the best. So I don't know. And my softball coach in high school, Deb Cipher, and she still amazes me. She does a really good job. She's poured into those kids all these years. I think she's in year 39 being a teacher and a coach. And I mean, she's amazing. She goes above and beyond and really raises up some good girls. So
I love that. And I love just your reflection on the powerful women in your life that really just played a role. I think that's so huge and important. And so, Melinda, one way that I always love to end all these conversations is I believe as people, there are things we hold really true to ourselves, deep in our hearts, that we just hold tightly to. And so for the people who are listening or watching today, if there was one thing you want them to walk away with, what would your one thing be?
I think it goes back to, you just never know what somebody is going through or what is on the other side of that smile or on the other side of those tears. And the empathy and the seek first to understand. I think I really have learned a lot from seeking first to understand. Where are these people coming from? Why is this happening this way? And just slowing down and thinking through it, and then helping other people see the variety of sides. I was black and white when I started this job. It was policy or handbook or yes or no, or if this is how you do it, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And it took a while to become where you do what's best for the people in the circumstance at that time. And so that's hard to do in our job with all the policy and politics and all that kind of stuff. Okay, you can't end this yet because I have to say something.
Go ahead.
So I think, did we first meet in Chicago at Ed Camp?
I think that may have been our first time face to face.
And we went to see Jurassic Park. So every time I see that, it was you and I and Brad and Tony. And we went to see the Jurassic Park, whatever the most recent one is, and went to get ice cream and did all that stuff. And then we met again, I think later that summer at is it Long Beach? Was it?
Yep.
Yeah, we met there and everything. So even though we knew each other online, those face-to-face connections are always so fun. So if we ever get back to having conferences, or if we ever get back to doing anything face-to-face, I so encourage people to do that, because it just takes the relationship to another level. So even though we've only met face-to-face like 2 or 3 times, Todd's my really good friend, or people will talk and I'll be like, oh yeah, we're good friends, and I've known him forever.
I love that, and I'm the same way, because, it's so right. You interact with people on social media, but then you meet them face to face, and it solidifies that connection more than just if you would have just met them face to face or anything like that. Because I remember too that Chicago thing, because I don't know why I remember this, but I remember us all shoving into a car and then driving somewhere and having to stop at a Starbucks, because I think you needed a Starbucks and there was somebody else, I think it may have been Tony, that had to have Starbucks. And so we found this one and all jumped in. I mean, it's all these random things that you're like, yeah, like I know her, we went on all these crazy trips. It's so random.
Well, I know, and we make it feel like, I mean, we go way back. You make it feel like, oh my gosh, we've been friends forever, and even though we don't usually talk, or we just kind of pop into each other's messages every now and then, I still know that I could call on you for anything, or just pop in and say hi and giggle and laugh and stuff like that. And it's so powerful. So
I
Anyway,
agree
I had to
completely.
share because every time I watch Jurassic Park, and it's on all the time now, I remember that.
I love that so much. Well, Melinda, I adore you. I think your work is fantastic, and I feel like I'm learning from you all the time. And so when you agreed to come on today, I was super excited. So thank you for coming on Tell Your Story.
Hey, and thanks for telling these stories. Thanks for having these people on. I love to hear people's stories. And that's what I mean by seek first to understand.
Yeah.
Where are all of these people coming from that are so amazing? And how are they getting to that point? There's so much to learn from those people.
I couldn't agree more. Well, Melinda, keep doing the amazing work you're doing. And I'm going to keep learning from you. And thank you everybody for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get it, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Melinda has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters.